Hi, I'm Uncle Mark. I noticed well, this is a supplement to, that's gas leaking by the way. This is a supplement to another video that I did where I thought I was doing myself a favor, changing a fuel filter on my old Intrepid. And as you can see, it's pretty rusted. Probably original with the car, I'm not really sure. So the way this thing's supposed to come off is you're just supposed to squeeze it like this. So you can just imagine that my fingers are the connector and it just snaps over this one little piece and gets locked in there and stops where my fingernails are, and that holds it on the connector. And when you want to take it off, you just press where my fingers are now and it releases. You just press it down and the connector should come off. Well, yeah, in theory. Of course, this is 30 years. I don't know if this fuel filter has ever been replaced. So it's basically seized on there. In fact, it's like the metal had swollen a little bit because of the rust. And I'll show you the end of this new filter. It's just supposed to be the filter in, right? No, as you can see here, there's a little black plastic piece there that was stuck on, and it was part of the connection to the plastic hose, like to your fuel line. Somehow it come out when I yanked this thing out, and like I was fighting with it. So it's like, well, I need that piece back. It's not supposed to come off. I didn't want to break it. So I worked on it for probably half an hour to try and get it off. Lots of lubricant, lots of gentle prying, and it finally came off. Now what do? Oh, this new filter clip, it didn't come with one. So I thought I'd better take that off too. Had a lot of fighting with that and ended up getting a new clip. There weren't a whole lot of money. I don't know why they didn't include one with the filter. So as you can see here, it won't clip back on. It should be just snap on, but you have to remember there's something wrong with this connection. The pieces that fell out and I've tried to put back in, it's almost like they won't go in far enough. Again, showing you on the old filter, this black piece, I'll yank it off there again. There's that piece, there's a few other pieces, so that's the clip that holds the fuel filter onto that connector. There was also this little piece here that should not have come out of the connector. Then there was that little gasket or rubber O-ring that I tried getting another one from somewhere. It's like, well, no one really had. I probably could have looked a little tougher. And then this little plastic piece that's inside that also fell out. So I tried sitting them back in the way I thought they went, and it's only one way this thing can go in there. But I don't know if they were originally glued in or why it wants to leak now. So it's like, well, what are you going to do? I tried many times to get it in there properly, and it was almost like there was too much space now. That clip wouldn't lock in. So I figured I have nothing else to do. I'll just cut this off and go to plan B or C. I don't know what plan we're at. So I tried to cut it off as close to the connector as I could, because you will see that there was the part of the plastic line was a little bit bigger. It's got some ribbing, and I thought, well, that'll be good to put a hose on, and then when I clamp it on there, the ribbing will kind of hold it on a little better. Of course, you don't want to make it too tight because it'll probably crack it. Guess what? It split it. But I didn't notice that till later. So I had that on. This was when I was going to work. I had to go to work. It's kind of an emergency. I had planned to do this, figured this would take about half an hour. I ended up spending about 4 hours on this thing. So anyway, let's put the hose on. I got some clamps on it. I was able to try just gently holding it because I had to twist this hose on here. Just using light pressure, trying not to crush this plastic line, which you might as well say you're going to crush it. So anyway, I got this on, got a couple hose clamps on it, tried not to put them too tight, but they have to be tight enough. This is fuel pressure, right? 30 to 60 pounds, whatever it's going to be. So I put 2 hose clamps on. I put them opposite of each other so that I was hoping that would probably clamp a little better. So once I got those on, I figured, well, I don't need the clip now, right? Because that connector's not going there. Got rid of that. sprayed them with some lubricant just so I could get this thing on the fuel filter. Tried my darndest to get it in there as far as I could, and no matter what you did, because there was no room, I'm doing this on the floor. I've got the car jacked up as high as I can, but you can't really hold your arms straight enough. I think if this was on a hoist, I could have probably done it. So what I'm trying to do is push that fuel line over that little lip right there on the fuel filter. If I can get over the lip, then I can clamp it on the other side, or I can clamp it on both sides. So I actually had it on there, but it wasn't over that hump. I was worried it's going to come off, so this is the next day. Figure I'm going to take it off. We're going to take it off. I'm going to take that rubber hose. I'm going to go to my vise. I'm going to put the fuel filter in a vise, and with the fuel filter not moving, I should be able to get that rubber hose over the filter. So we'll just skip to this next part. So here was the problem. It would be nice if the line went further, so there's no way that hose is going to come off. So the second part, okay, let's do this first. What I figured is I'd grab it right there on those edges, because it's the opposite line. It's this line that's facing up that we're trying to get this hose on. It is a different size, I believe. Or is it? No, they're both. Now you got me wondering. I think it is the same size, but then the line got smaller. So here, with some forcing, I got it over that. Couple clamps. That's not going anywhere. Wish I would have done that earlier. So, you know how to put clamps on. I got these clamps on. This is fuel hose. Although I had a buddy talking to me and he was saying, is it fuel injector hose? And it isn't. You can watch the original video of this to wonder how come the gas hasn't washed those numbers off of that filter. Little secret there. So anyway, took those two off, and I noticed, oh, it split the connector. No. How could it? And it did have, as you'll see in there, there's a middle section in there as well. It's like, really? Now what do I do? Because now the line is a little bit different size. So I went and got one of these. It's a locking roll pin. I got the smallest one I could find. Well, I brought this piece of the old connector hose there just to see what I needed. It looks like I could probably get it to fit in there. I tried vice grips to squeeze it shut a little more. No way you're going to do that. This thing is really hard to squeeze. So put it in vice. Almost turning with quite a bit of my might there to get this thing to squeeze together. I had to do it a few times. I mean, I'm torquing on it pretty good. And this is a pretty big vise. It's like, well, it's getting closer, but I want them to be touching. So I pre-fitted it a couple times, like, no, I'm going to need it just a little bit smaller to get it on the existing hose plastic hose that's on there. So I'll speed it up a little bit here anyway. I don't want to bore you completely with it. But did it a few times. I think I did it a few times more and got them to touch. That's as close as I could, and it's like, oh, I think it's going to slide in. I think it should work. So what I did is I took it to my grinder and I just ground the end a little bit to make it like a funnel almost. What would you call that? There you go, you know what I mean. So it should fit in there a little easier. Took the burrs off of it. There you go. So that the end is actually, the tip of it is a little smaller than the hose. So we'll go back under the car. You can see I don't have a whole lot of hose. You can see it actually split a little further back. So of course, it's going to want to keep splitting. So got my hacks out again. And I figured I'm going to cut it back a little bit more. And this plastic hose, you got to think, A, it's 30 years old. B, it's not made to be squashed. So I found the best way for me was to just use a hacksaw. Of course, trying to hold it while you're under the car and I'm laying on my back, so we're looking up, and that black thing is actually the fuel tank there, cutting against the fuel tank. Fuel tank's thick. Got the broken piece off, got my little guy in there. Is it going to go in easy? I put it in some vice grips, and I thought, oh, it's going to be hard to get in there, but yeah, basically kind of slipped in, and I'm wondering, is that still got a little bit of a cut in it? I'm not sure. Anyway, it went in there. Now when I put the hose on, I can clamp it down. Problem is now, ooh, this hose is too big. That's what happened there. So I was able to make something up where I was able to downsize it. Went and talked to one of my buddies, and we got some kind of pieces. Went down to a 5/16 hose, which will just slip over that plastic fuel line. A lot of monkeying around. Again, if I could have taken the whole fuel line out, I could have brought it to a shop and they could have made me an end. But that means dropping the tank. Who knows what else we're going to break doing that on a 30-year-old car. It's a 95. Is that 30 years old? Anyway, so this hose is going to fit on there. So we've downsized it a little bit. We got a couple more little clips or hose clamps. Want to make sure that I'm going to be able to clamp it on both sides, which is what I did here. Get the other hose clamp on, slide it down as well. And we're going to use a couple on the other end. So slipped it over here. This is the new smaller hose, which fits pretty darn perfect on there. Now when I use my hose clamps with that locking roll pin inside so that I can hold the plastic from crushing, it should be good. The only other worry I have now is what stops this from somehow possibly coming off no matter how tight it is. It's got no little knobby thing there to have the clamp on the other side. You know, it's not flared is I guess the word.
This guy onto there.
So we're going to the bigger size to make it the fuel filter, which we've already put on there because we had it sitting on our vise. Try and sit all that back in. The side click's nice. Okay. Way better connector. I don't know why they didn't have the same connector on both sides. Probably some reason. Tighten that up. Put the fuel filter bracket back on. And so much for doing a favor to the car.
Muffler. Heat shield.
So I didn't want that touching the heat shield. I don't know how hot that gets. I don't know if it gets that hot.
Like that. How do you tighten that? You can't really tighten it. Should see if there's any leaks.
So it was like, let's start her up. If you look at the other video, you'll see how we got the fuel pump not to work. You're seeing how we're getting it to work now. But again, this is a supplemental video. So I didn't see any leaks. I actually went under there and took a look too. So put this cover back on this old Intrepid. Got more videos on this as well. And that's what happens when you try and do a good deed. Well, that's the video. Hopefully it's of help if you are thinking of changing it and it looks like this and you're wondering, I didn't think it was going to be that much of a problem. Was it worth doing? I don't know. We'll see if I have any more issues. How bad is this thing? I don't know. Ugh. Well, there's still stuff coming out. I can blow through it, but don't really know how old it is, but it looks pretty old, doesn't it? Anyway, if you like the video, give me the thumbs up. You can subscribe down at the bottom too, right there. Also, we'll put a playlist for the Chrysler Intrepid right up here. And that way, if you want to see some more videos or you have one of these cars or something similar, maybe it can help you out as well. Thanks for watching, and hopefully, as you do things yourself, you're learning along the way. I just want to say again that I wouldn't suggest that that's the way you fix that plastic end, because there's still doesn't have a gripping place there to hang on. It could just slide off just as easy as this is to grab on here. But I see if I can grab on the other side. There you go. Like, what a difference, huh? You know what I mean. You can always get, if you get that piece off, it's fixable through different sources. Until next time, I'm Uncle Mark saying you and your family stay safe. Bye-bye for now. Please subscribe, and you'll get all the notifications. It's easy. The little dog will show you how. Ring the bell. Ring the bell.